Welcome to In My Opinion 4, SoulCalibur 6. In a world of souls and swords, the merciless pirate Shadowlantes struck fear in everyone's heart, especially thanks to his evil sword, Soul Edge. His reign of terror finally came to an end thanks to the brave warriors Sophitia and Taki. Though the cursed sword Soul Edge still survived, and the knight Siegfried fell to its power to become its new evil puppet known as Nightmare, spreading the dark seed around the globe and leaving a trail of blood and terror in his wake. This is where the game picks up from, and if you're wondering if you need to play the previous entries, well, you don't. Even though this is called SoulCalibur 6, this is more like a reboot to the franchise that goes from Soul Blade to a bit before SoulCalibur 3. The story itself I'll get into in the gameplay section since there are 2 story modes to tackle. You heard me, I said 2. If you're new to the series, SoulCalibur, previously known as Soul Blade, is a weapon-based fighting game. So expect swords and the weapons to be used to beat the crap out of your opponent. You're able to move around in 8 different directions, giving you some freedom when it comes to dodging incoming attacks. You can attack vertical and horizontal, and even kick to throw your opponent off. Speaking of off, there are ring outs as well to increase the tension in battle. If you time your blocking just right and press forward, you can connect a guard impact to give you a quick advantage to score some hits. Though it's a risk reward system since if you botch it, your ass is in for a beating. As you can see, there is a meter next to your name, and as you fight, it starts to go up. And once it has at least 1 bar full, you can do your critical edge, which is a pretty looking special move, or if you want, you can do what's called a soul charge. Activating this gives you a boost in attack but also enhances some of your moves. So while it wasn't a move that can make your opponent stumble, now it can. And even some combos become more devastating by adding an extra hit or allowing what couldn't connect before, connect now. A new addition added to the series here is Reversal Edge, which is basically a counter system. This can be activated with a push of a button or during a combo string. And when it starts, it's time for rock, paper, scissors, as one button press beats the other, or you can just dodge or guard instead. The fighting mechanics felt pretty damn solid. It's just the right speed and balance to get you enthralled in the intense combat clashing away with your weapons. I honestly thought I was going to despise Reversal Edge and all the fights would just turn into rock, paper, scissors, but that didn't happen at all, since you can easily dodge it and even stop it if you do enough hits. Also, it's not always a safe win since it can be easily flipped around to either side, and spamming it does add pressure to your block gauge, making you more vulnerable to breaking. Some thought when Soul Charge was shown it was going to be like an X Factor, as in way too overpowered and not balanced at all. It's nowhere near that, thankfully, and it's just something there to give you a fighting chance if your back is against the wall. I was also happy to see critical edges stood around from the last game, as they are visually appealing and it's always nice to end the battle with flair.
Show respect for the fallen who fought so bravely.
I have to say we have a pretty good roster at 21 characters, with most fan favorites being playable. This being a reboot, I already came to terms that some of the featured characters would not show up, like my girl Hilda, but I was still pretty satisfied with what I got. You can't mess around in training mode to get up to snuff, but I do kind of wish it had some sort of challenge mode or something to help new players get introduced into the mechanics a bit more. All you guys a lot of text to read and you go from there. I do appreciate that at least let you know what advantages each character gets during Soul Charge, gives you a suggestion how you can connect your critical edge, and even tells you how you should follow up depending on what Reversal Edge strike you pulled off. Now on to our gameplay modes, and the first one I want to touch on is the one some of you fell in love with back in SoulCalibur 3, which is Create a Soul mode. Here you can fully customize a character with 16 races to choose from, with most being able to pick male and female. The race is just for aesthetic reasons, so don't worry, you won't be weaker because you picked a certain one. Though when it comes to height, some stats will change. After you pick out your clothes, hair, voice, and body shape, you're able to customize those a bit more, like voice pitch and clothing color and style. Now you don't get to customize a full moveset, instead you pick the character style you want from the roster and use their moves. Though you can pick what weapon design you want from their arsenal, and even mess with the color of those as well. This all may sound awesome to you, and it is, but it does have a single fault, and that's the clothing pieces. There's just so little to work with compared to the previous entries, which is a bummer. If you don't care much for making a customized character, you can just change up the color and outfit of the current roster. The game allows 100 slots for customized characters, so go nuts. Well, now let's dive into the online offerings. There's your ranked matches, and as of now it seems kind of 50-50 here. There are times where you'll be waiting a while to fight someone, but other moments I got into matches pretty frequently. The player match rooms on the other hand are more alive. Just search or create your own room with the settings you like, and bam, room found. Most of the matches I've had were pretty smooth and nothing so far has felt overly cheap to me. One complaint some have though is some of the heights of the Create a Soul characters won't have the combos connect, even though they're mimicking a character that said combo usually works on. I personally just look at this as you gotta adapt like any other fighter, or you can say no creator soul characters allowed and boot those who use them. Now let's say you're not into the online and rather just focus on single player action. Well, I got good news since this game is rather chunky in that department with count 'em, two story modes. First is the Soul Chronicles mode, which at first tells the main story of Kilik, Maxie, and Xianghua, who all have some reason to go after Soul Edge, such as Kilik's temple being destroyed by the evil seed. They end up teaming up to stop the wielder of Soul Edge and Nightmare while running into other characters. Now after you take this down, you open the majority of everyone's personal story modes, so you can see what Maxie and his crew was up to.
Plus, you have your own boat.
Then I guess I'm the man for you.
Raphael's betrayal and how he met Amy.
Amy.
You're silly. Why cry when you're safe?
Taki being hunted down by her former clan.
Watch your mouth. It's Master Toki to you.
Not anymore, it isn't.
Siegfried's fate after Nightmare, and much more. This was a fantastic way to help develop these characters, giving them more personality and in turn making them more interesting. All the stories presented with pictures of the characters backed with voice acting, so it's kind of like a visual novel with fights. If you play games like Blaze Blue, then you already have an idea what you're in for. And after beating each story, you're also treated to a grander piece of art. I personally don't mind this since the artwork is rather nice, but I can see how this may turn some off who wanted full-blown cutscenes, especially since they kind of tease you with some during the main story. I also like how the whole mode is presented, giving you a concrete timeline of when everything happened for each character. The next story mode is called Libra of Souls, which is for your created character. That's why your character gets some love as well, story-wise. The story starts off with you being affected by one of the many evil seeds Nightmare released when born, and now you must search for these things called astral rifts to close them up and suck up their power. If you don't do this, then you're dead. This will take you globetrotting while running into many familiar faces along the way. The story is interesting enough to keep you going, seeing what impact you have on the world, as you're not just some non-important character. This mode is heavy on reading, as there is tons of text and no voiceovers, except for a few minor parts. And just like the other story mode, there are very few cutscenes. Most of it is just character model pictures with text and some background drawings. Again, I didn't mind this, but I can see how this will turn some people off. There is some light RPG aspects added to the mode as well, since as you fight you level up, increasing your health. Your level is also important since you need to be a certain one to equip certain weapons. And what's neat is you're not stuck to a specific fighting style, as you can change it all you want. The way you earn more weapons is either buying them from shops or going to a side quest and hoping one drops. Speaking of side quests, yeah, this mode has them. You can tell them apart since they are green instead of the red story missions, and this is where your money comes in handy, since besides buying stuff with it, you will need to pay a travel fee if you're going off the dotted path. Though thankfully the game gives you a heads up of how much it will cost before you set out on your horse and carriage. There is a chance that a random battle can happen along the way, and if you lose said battle, you'll be smacked back and lose the money you just spent, so be prepared to win them fights. The side quests are either dull non-story fights just to gain some cash and hopefully a weapon, while others have more of a story to them. So you can run into a blacksmith trying to make a name for herself, a trader who just keeps getting into trouble and asking for help and funds from you, fighting in a tournament, running into some of those familiar faces I was talking about, and much more. You don't have to worry about the mission disappearing, well, at least the ones that have a story attached to them. While the normal battle ones do disappear, more always comes back. Doing some of the story side quests will also open up more of them, so if you see none popping up, don't worry about it, and just keep playing. Now some of these fights, be it side or main, do sometimes have little stipulations, such as an icy floor, or only charged soul attacks really do damage, and so on, which helps spice things up. If one of the missions are too tough for you, then there are two things that can help you. There's an option to eat something to help boost you up and stuff like strength, or maybe give you the ability to always have your soul gauge full. Also, you will eventually get to pay a mercenary for help, and while you cannot control them, there's a chance they can make a dent in the enemy's health. These are pretty damn helpful because eventually you will hit that submission that's fucking hard as hell. If your weapon's not up to snuff, you can always go to that blacksmith I mentioned, and boost its power by giving it more abilities. You might have thought the weapon level bar you see below would do something, but no. Now what the bar does when it's full is it unlocks a mission to fight the master of said weapon, and allows you to get a damn powerful version of the weapon. Lastly, you may have noticed a scale on the lower right side of the map. Well, this is your karma meter. As the game lets you make some choices, and depending on them, you will be labeled good or evil. Don't worry, it's blatantly obvious when the time comes to make a choice. Though besides some rare cases of different dialogue and different outcomes, to a very few side quests and the end of the game, there's not too much a difference between the good and evil run. If you change your mind on what karma you want, the game does eventually give you a side quest called Astral Fissure Sealing that pops up time to time. This makes you face created characters other players have uploaded, and beating them lets you change your alignment. Though be warned, as some can be tough. If you beat the game before you complete any side activities, don't worry, as the game lets you keep going even after the credits roll, so you can do some cleanup. This is always great when the game lets you do this. What's also pretty cool is if you want to do a new run, there are separate files you can make, and you can use any of the weapons and items you have on the other files. The last 3 modes you can check out are Arcade, which is just 8 fights, and it ranks your time. There's no arcade endings, but I saw no problem in this since you already have the Soul Chronicles for each character. Then you got your usual Versus mode, which is self-explanatory, and finally there is Museum mode. Here you can look at the background of all the characters, be it main, side, or characters you just heard of during the story mode. There's also details you can look up on all the weapon types, world lore, and even pictures to see. This is all bought with in-game money you earn doing just about anything. You can even transfer the cash you make in Libra of Souls to in-game currency. Museum is just chock full of info and is a great way to learn about the SoulCalibur lore even more. The game looks great, as do the cast. They still have their usual detailed flair, making each of them visually interesting. I played the beta and I thought they wouldn't fix the jaggy models, but lo and behold, they smoothed them out for the most part. It even did a pretty good job on the created character details. I mean, it's not on the same level of the official cast, but still a good job. The levels themselves are visually unique from one another as well. I also like the effects for battles like clashing, supers, and the reversal edge, which makes something so simple look so pretty. Also, destructible clothing is still around to give that extra gratifying feeling of you hitting your foe hard. And it's still a wonder to behold, or just embarrassing for you. There's tons of voice work, and I must say the majority of it is great, with the only one I found to be kind of 50-50 was Taki. If you're not a fan of the English cast, you do have the option to change the Japanese voiceovers.
When will you learn?
You're the one who's always getting in the way. If you're here, that means Soul Edge must be near.
Oh, is that so?
As I mentioned, there is artwork in the game with the story mode, and it's nicely drawn, so at least you won't have to look at some piss poor drawings. Though it's still kinda sad there wasn't more cutscenes, since from the tiny bit that I saw, it looks like they can do a good job with the in-game stuff. Can't say I ran into many technical issues, no frame rate drops or weird visual glitches, besides maybe some clipping with the costumes, though you barely notice it. This is a great entry in the series, and a step in the right direction. The recent games have been iffy when it came to single player content. This game brings back memories of SoulCalibur 3 and how much time I sank into that. With both the story modes, you're looking at 20 to 30 hours of gameplay, which is a lot of hours to sink your teeth into, especially for a fighter. Then you have stuff to unlock in museum mode as well. While rank was 50-50 when it came to finding a game, player matches work just fine. And that's just more hours of gameplay if you're looking for replayability. I mean, there is a second playthrough for Libra of Souls, but like I said, besides a few certain moments in the end, it didn't feel different enough to recommend a total replay. If you're new to the SoulCalibur games or have felt wishy-washy with its previous entries, I say give this one a shot, as its soul shines bright. I hope you enjoy my thoughts on this game, and for gamer's sake, keep gaming.